Our movie begins today on a beach by the sea. The island is deserted, and we see a girl named Jean, who is unconscious. Then she wakes up and quickly runs toward a guy named Brad, who is also unconscious. We see that Brad is injured in his abdomen by a piece of coral. Jean is terrified and very worried about Brad, so she pulls him away from the water and tries to give him first aid. Jean manages to bring him back to consciousness, and she forcefully pulls out the piece of coral lodged in his belly, which causes him to feel excruciating pain. He says to her, "I'm thirsty, and I want to drink." Quickly, Jean acts and brings a coconut, breaking it open to give Brad the water inside. But unfortunately, when she returns to Brad, she finds that he has died. At this moment, the film reveals that Jean was originally on a boat trip with her friend and boyfriend, Cass, and Brad and his girlfriend, Maya, were also on that boat, along with a fifth person named Zach. Unfortunately, the boat sank, and the waves carried them to the shore of this deserted island. Jean starts exploring the island, hoping to find anything that could help her or be useful, and she doesn't know how to act or what to do, or even when she might be able to get out of there. As she continues walking along the path, she finds a bag hanging on a tree trunk. She opens it and discovers it contains personal belongings, as well as soda drinks kept in an ice cooler to keep them cold. She also finds matches and school bags for children, which contain toys and textbooks. So, she realizes she is not alone on this deserted island, and there are definitely other people who are here, and their belongings might belong to those who died on the island. Time passes, night falls, and it gets very cold, with rain pouring down. Jean takes shelter inside the tree trunk to protect herself from the cold and the rain. The next morning, she returns to the beach and finds dead fish, and she is very hungry because she hasn't eaten since yesterday. She gathers the edible fish to eat, but there's something strange she notices. She finds the front part of a dead shark on the beach, while the back part is missing. She sits in a shady spot under the tree, places the fish on a stone, and starts cutting it with another stone to prepare it for eating. Then she eats. After that, she decides to search the area again and finds a grave. It seems that the people who found their belongings yesterday are buried here. At that moment, she feels anxious and scared, fearing that her fate will be like theirs, so she returns to the beach. She pulls Brad's body and buries it in the sand away from the water under that tree, placing it beside his grave while feeling very sad. At night, she lights a fire with some wood and tree trunks, using the matches she found yesterday to keep herself warm from the cold. The next day, when Jean goes to Brad's grave that she buried the day before, she is shocked to find the grave open and covered in blood, realizing that Brad's body is not there. Jean feels that there are predators on the island that did this, dug up the grave, and ate Brad's remains. At night, she is terrified and scared, unable to sleep. She stays awake and keeps the fire going like she did the night before until morning arrives. On the second day, Jean goes down and swims a bit in the sea. She notices a deep hole at the bottom, and her mind starts racing because she doesn't know what's in a hole like that in the ocean. She feels scared and quickly gets out of the water, returning to the island. At night, while she's awake and anxious like the night before, she hears the sound of a plane flying overhead, close to the island. She runs quickly, calling out and yelling. She has a flare gun, so she fires a strong shot up into the sky. The flare creates a bright, intense light above her, but unfortunately, the plane has already moved on, and Jean feels a deep sense of frustration and hopelessness because they didn't notice her signal. At that moment, suddenly, Jean sees a huge creature emerging from the ocean, coming towards her. She is shocked and becomes very frightened and anxious, so she runs and uses what she had used before to hide from this strange creature. Indeed, the terrifying creature comes out of the water and heads toward the island, while she hides, searching the area for anything to eat, like Brad's body. After a little while, fortunately, the creature doesn't see her and takes off quietly back into the ocean. Jean spends her night in fear and terror inside the tree trunk. The next morning, she uses a bag from their belongings that the waves washed up on the shore. She thinks she might be able to float on the surface using this bag, and she really tries to put her idea into action. However, on her first attempt, when she tries to climb onto the bag, it sinks beneath her, and she fails, feeling very frustrated and suffocated, so she returns to the island again. Just like the night before, she hides inside the tree trunk, and the strange creature emerges from the ocean and goes to the island, searching for something to eat. Suddenly, the strange creature heads toward the tree trunk where Jean is hiding. It starts hitting and shaking the trunk forcefully, trying to break it. But fortunately for Jean, the creature suddenly walks away from the spot and returns to the ocean. The next morning, she comes out of the tree trunk and finds that most of it has been broken and completely ruined from the creature's attack the night before. Jean starts preparing some things to cook and eat. While sitting on the shore, she sees half a body floating on the surface of the water next to the beach, so she runs quickly to check it out. When she reaches it, she discovers it's the body of the fifth person who was with them on the trip, named Zach. She takes advantage of the upper half of the body and ties it with a rope, lifting it a bit so that when night comes and the strange creature emerges from the ocean, it will find Zach's body and eat it. As time passes, at night, the strange creature comes out of the ocean and goes to the island like it does every day. Jean is hiding and watching it from a distance. Suddenly, she hears the sound of another plane flying overhead, and she doesn't know how to react or what to do at that moment. But she decides to stay put and not move at all because if the terrifying creature notices her, she will definitely become its meal today. After a little while, the strange creature eats the rest of the body and returns to the ocean again. On the second day, Jean makes a high bed suspended between the trees so she can sleep on it in peace, away from the danger of that strange creature. At night, Jean climbs up and sleeps on her suspended bed among the tall trees. The strange creature comes out of the ocean like it does every night, and heads to the island to see if there's anything to eat. Unfortunately for Jean, it spots her shining in the moonlight, while she's asleep on her bed. The creature doesn't know how to climb trees, so it shakes the trees violently to try to knock her down. It succeeds, and Jean falls from her suspended bed to the ground. The creature attacks her as she gets up and runs for her life, trying to escape. It chases her, thinking she's a delicious meal for dinner. The creature is much faster than she is and manages to catch up with her, injuring her in the process. It throws her onto the shore into the water. Jean feels intense pain from her injuries and loses consciousness from the creature's strong blows. However, something unexpected happens. The creature doesn't continue its attack on Jean. Instead, it leaves her and returns to the ocean. The next day, Jean wakes up and goes to bathe in the water, using the salty ocean water to clean her wounds. Suddenly, she spots a rescue raft nearby and feels a surge of hope as she swims toward it. She finds that Maya, Brad's friend, is in the raft. Jean pulls the raft to the island and offers them food and soda, as they were also starving and thirsty after spending a day in the ocean without anything to eat or drink. Jean tells them everything that happened to her on the deserted island, including the story of the predatory strange creature that comes out of the ocean every night. She even shows them photographs of the people who were there before and died on the island, taken by this creature. She insists, "We need to take your raft and leave here immediately before night falls and that creature comes out of the ocean to pick us off one by one, just like it did with Brad's body." But Lucas and Maya oppose her, not believing her. They tell her that hallucinations or delusions might be causing her to think this way. They argue that it's better for all of them to stay together until they're rescued, as they know what it's like to be out in the middle of the ocean without food or water for days in a row. Frankly, they'd been through that experience and don't want to repeat it. After that, Lucas and Maya sit together talking on the shore while Jean dozes off. She takes some food and drink, puts it in a bag, and takes the raft down to the water, wanting to escape on her own since they are sticking to their decision to stay. But Maya sees her, and they both rush over to stop her and pull her back to the island. At night, Lucas argues with Jean, telling her that she's selfish and only cares about herself because she wants to take the raft and escape on her own, leaving them behind. Jean replies, "But you're the ones who want to stay here." They continue to argue, each holding on to their opinions. Maya steps back to let them continue their fight and wanders off alone to the shore. As we all expected, at that moment, we see the strange creature emerging from the ocean and heading toward them. Maya calls out to them, screaming loudly, while Lucas grabs a burning log and rushes at the creature. He manages to hit it with the log, but the predatory creature strikes Lucas with a powerful blow, throwing him to the ground. Lucas feels intense pain, and the strange creature pulls Maya into the ocean, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The next morning, Lucas apologizes to Jean for their argument the previous night, realizing that what happened proved she was right and that they needed to leave the island as soon as possible. Together, they gather all the food and drink they can take with them in the inflatable raft. They decide to sail west, which he believes is the closest direction to safety. They push the raft into the water and climb in, both filled with hope for escaping the ordeal therein. But suddenly, the creature attacks them again, pushing the raft with its large, strong claws and sticking its head inside. Lucas fires a shot from the flare gun he has, causing the creature to recoil in pain. After getting hit, it disappears and sinks beneath the water. They think they've escaped it, but suddenly, the creature strikes again, grabbing Jean and pulling her down into the depths of the ocean. Jean has a small knife in her hand, so she stabs it and manages to break free from its claws, swimming back up to the surface with all her strength. Meanwhile, Lucas swims down after them, holding a branch to rescue Jean. The creature attacks Lucas directly, grabbing him and pulling him toward its lair, which Jean had seen before at the bottom of the ocean. Jean reaches the surface and swims toward the shore, finally succeeding in getting there and saving her life for now. She starts to remember Lucas and all their friends who have already died, feeling very affected and sad about everything that has happened to them. She gathers her courage, makes a spear from a tree trunk, and collects a lot of wood to set a trap to catch the creature and finish it off. As happens every night at the same time, the creature comes out of the ocean and heads to the island, searching for Jean. It approaches the trap she made from the tree branches. As soon as it gets among the wood, flames ignite around it. At that moment, the strange creature is distracted, and suddenly Jean attacks it with her spear. The creature hits her hard, throwing her to the ground. When Jean tries to escape, it grabs her tightly and wants to pull her back into the ocean. But Jean has the knife and keeps stabbing it toward its heart. At that moment, it suffers severe injuries, and she manages to break free. However, the creature doesn't want to give up. It still wants to chase her and grab her again. Just as it gets close, and she prepares to defend herself, the creature collapses in front of her on the ground, gasping its last breaths. Jean approaches it and continues to stab it with her spear until its body bursts, and it dies. Finally, she realizes that its spirit has left, and it is truly dead. And so, the events of our movie today come to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe.